What is up, guys, and welcome back to another Gran Turismo Sport video. Today is a very momentous day on the channel. Today I change my nationality for the very first time. 100% legit. And this is all at the expense of PlayStation, who seemingly can't make a simple switch of my region on my console. On Xbox, it was completely fine. On every other platform that I've set up in the last year, has been fine. But PlayStation, nada. Can't do nothing. I have to create an entirely new account, spend all the YouTube dosh, and here we are. 27 years of existence in Australia, all for nothing. But anyway, yes, we are now a fully fledged British citizen. However, there is one small caveat to that. We have to earn our citizenship in this country. We have to win a race on this game and race under the British flag in Nations Cup. So once we do those things, we'll be in. So I'll be trading my Vegemite sandwiches and shrimps on the barbie for tea and crumpets. And honestly, I can't wait. I'm never looking back.
What is sportsmanship?
Oh, for goodness sake. Not this guy again. No, I'm just joking. I love you, Tom. But anyway, I love this sportsmanship video, documentary, lesson thing. It basically shows everyone how to race on Gran Turismo Sport. Like, these are all the things that apparently you should never do. But honestly, in all of my races I've experienced, so like this is what everyone does. I feel like this is just like a how-to on how to get started on this game. But I went and made a coffee. Oh no, I can't make coffee anymore. I made my tea, got my crumpets ready, and there was that license sitting there waiting for me, as well as a go-kart, a virtual go-kart, which I will take to all of my track days. But yes, Ben, get on with it. Stop waffling on like an absolute tit and get to the racing, shall we? So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to do some daily races on Gran Turismo Sport. Finally getting to the point. The main reason why I've switched to the UK is, yes, that juicy citizenship. No, I need to race people without having like 300 ping. So that's hopefully going to result in some good racing. But before I can get into some of the Group 3 races, I need to dip into the bank of Lewis Hamilton so I can actually afford a car.
That's a great time.
And Maestro Lewis is very impressed with my one singular lap. Basically daylight robbery there, 500k in the bank, and that should be enough for us to get a car, I would say. Now, given that we are planning to be a British citizen, it only makes sense to race in a British-made car. McLaren looks like a tasty prospect. I'm not going to lie to you guys. So I think I'm going to go with a McLaren F1 GTR, one of my favorite cars of all time. And we will take this to absolute glory in Gran Turismo Sport. What are we saying? Like a nice British racing green? Or how about a nice pink? Baby fluoro pink. Looks good to me. So let's go with that. And we'll certainly stand out like a sore thumb in these daily races here. So this is my very first race on this account. We're starting from scratch again. So it's going to take me a while to get up to the level that I was even at with my Aussie account. But even then, like, my Aussie account doesn't have a ton of experience, but away we go for our very first race. Again, this is a car and track combination which we've already seen before on the channel. This was only on offer like 2 weeks ago. So Group 3 cars at Brazil. I thought Gran Turismo was meant to rotate the cars and track combos a lot better than this, but hey ho, I won't complain. This is easy slaps for me because I know this track very well and I'm pretty familiar with Group 3 cars as well. So this is a nice little inauguration for us into the world of British racing. So let's see how the Europeans do it on this game. If it's anything like the Japanese, Australian, New Zealand people, then we're set for a lot of carnage, I suppose. But it doesn't look too bad at this stage. No one has really been blown up so far. But we will hold our breath. We still haven't got through the first lap yet. We can see that Lotus there getting... That's not a Lotus, that was an Alfa Romeo, I think. Getting a nice little penalty there. Up the inside of those two guys. We're now up into P9. Mercedes getting shoved off by the Porsche. Gives us P8. And then another... Yep, cool. Another position. Thank you very much. That's P7. I don't know why I froze there, but I just did. I wasn't prepared to guess on what car it was and get it wrong, so I'm just going to play conservative, I guess. And that conservative strategy, even in my driving, seems to be paying off so far. P6 in this Brazilian, not a Grand Prix, it's a race. Just a race, Ben, just a daily race. 3 wide for those 3 out of the final corner. Thank goodness for the ghosting system for those guys. We get overtaken by a Lotus as Lexus. I knew it was a Lexus. The RCF is one of my favorite cars. Thank goodness. You wouldn't be like it. You'd be amazed at how many just silly mistakes. You say things, but you don't actually mean them while commentating, and that is again a case for me here as we get punted through turn 1. I think that might have been the Lexus, though I don't really have confirmation on that. But it's P5 so far in this race. The Lexus gets... Is it the Lexus that gets a slowdown? No, it looks like... Is that a 4GT or something? Either way, we get up the inside of him as he unghosts, and we are now up in a P4. Let's hopefully set our sights on the podium here. The race winner is... Or the race leader is nearly 8 seconds up the road, so he's doing a complete Sebastian Vettel as we get dive bombed from the German. Decided to just leave the door open there. I was actually scared more than anything else that I was going to get punted off, so I decided to just leave the steering open. He goes for another big dive bomb. That one doesn't quite work out for him there, and all that hard work is undone. Anyway, we are going to set after the top 3 in the slipstream of the Lexus, and this should be easy slaps into turn 1. I really do rate myself quite highly under brakes, so as long as I'm within range into a heavy braking zone, we should be able to get it done. And I think one of these days I will switch to my load cell brake pedal set, and that'll hopefully make me even stronger under brakes once I get used to that. But I haven't set it up yet. I'm just like too scared that it's gonna make me an absolute slow pleb getting used to it for the first time. But I will put it on very, very soon. But anyway, back to this race. P2 and P3 get tangled up out of the final corner. The P2 went in deep, but then the Lexus went in even deeper and just finished him off, and that was a free P2 for us, setting a fastest lap of the Grand Prix along the way to a pretty comfortable P2 in the end. So not a bad effort there. We closed in the race leader by a couple of seconds, but in the end it wasn't enough. His early lead was just far too substantial for us to do anything about. So a handy start to proceedings on my UK account. I think we do end up with the fastest lap in the end there, and yeah, it's going to take us a while to build up that driver rating, so we'll see how that goes for us. Eventually I do want to work my way into Nations Cup, like I said, the Manufacturer Series as well, but I still feel like I'm quite new to the game, and there's a lot of learning that I need to do in order to be at the level that I want to be at to be competitive. But we're now moving on to Group 2. This is a combination I haven't done before. Had to, again, dip into the fat bank account of Lewis Hamilton in the time trial DLC to get the 800k up to buy this car. So here we are for... I don't even know what track this is, to be honest. I missed that on the opening sequence. But this is one that I certainly have never done before. So this is one that I'll be learning on the fly on this warm-up lap. We have about 30 or 40 seconds worth of warm-up, and then you're thrown straight into the race. So I did, about a sector, and that is my practice on this brand new race layout. So this is a daily race C. This is for lack of a better term in F1 terms, a 25% race. There will be potentially pit stops, fuel and tire strategy. I feel like we could probably make it to the end on fuel based on the numbers that I saw, but we may need to make a stop for tires. We are running with the hard compound tire at the moment, and we can switch to the mediums if necessary. But I think my initial plan going forward was just to do a no-stop, I guess, or just to assess where the tyre wear and fuel wear was going to be at about the halfway stage. But anyway, turn 1. We do know this corner because we came out of the pit lane here, but basically just using the cars ahead of me as a guide to know where to brake. It's going to be actually quite important for me to just follow people for the first 3 or 4 laps as I get used to the circuit. We know this corner, but then in about 20 seconds we won't know where we're going. We'll be essentially flying blind, so that'll be quite the scary prospect for us. But this car, this Group 2 car, is very capable. With hindsight, like I was just thinking about this race and looking back on it, like it was a little bit hard to get used to with the traction as we get absolutely bunted there by another GTR, so that was lovely. But the car felt very, very familiar to me. Like it was so capable. Like it had a really good amount of downforce, really capable under brakes. Had to watch the traction and acceleration a little bit, but once you get used to that, it was a really nice car to drive. Much nicer than the Group 3 cars, obviously, because it's that much faster. And so I was able to tap into, I don't know, it's not like I've only driven F1 cars all my life virtually. I did race on the old Codemasters Toka Race Driver 1, 2 and 3, so I do have experience with like touring cars and stuff, but this car felt a lot more familiar to me. It felt a little less like Gran Turismo-y, if that even makes sense. But we're running 3 wide with these guys. We're going to see if we can do a big boy dive bomb into turn 1. I think we did get a bit of a touch there as the Acura, or the Honda, gives us a little bit of a push there, but we managed to hold on to P13. Lots of people with penalties I've noticed so far on these opening 2 laps, either getting tangled up with each other or just abusing the track limits. When the car is when you're racing cars that are faster, it's a lot easier to get caught out by mistakes and other people's unpredictable driving, I suppose, because your reaction times really do get tested that whole lot more when things are coming towards you that much quicker. And so I felt that, like, even though I wasn't driving particularly well, I was still able to drive or keep up with a lot of people who were much more experienced than what I am. P10 at the moment, and we're just looking to continue to move forward. Fastest lap is at 1 minute 33.6. I guess that's just going to be the marker for us to aim for in this race. But still making solid ground here in the slipstream of the Honda ahead. Let's see if we can get this guy into turn 1. This was a very dangerous part of the circuit because everyone felt like they were an absolute hero into turn 1 as we get bunted off there again. So I really do appreciate that. I think I'll get a replay of that up for a second so you guys can see what actually happened. We read you on the track and it was a little bit skatey there as we kind of bounced over a curb and then landed again, but we managed to get P9 once again, and we can set after the guys inside the top 8, and that is the replay of what happened. So yeah, very unfortunate and very hard to get in a rhythm at this stage, but I'm doing my absolute best to just try and keep pace with these guys as I run wide and lose P9 just as quickly as what I got it in this race. But we will move on. Lap 5, this was the section of the race where people are starting to make their pit stops. Tyre wear is starting to come into this a little bit, and I really did underestimate the effects of tyre wear in this race. As you can see, we're running side by side with another GTR. I was just kind of aiming to go to the end of the race here and wasn't really factoring in tyre wear or anything, but it comes to a point later on in the race where I've got really old tyres on and people have all made their stops, and then I just get absolutely bombarded, and it turns very ugly, and I'm quite embarrassed really at how long it took me to realise that my tyres were just dead, and I wasn't just being a slow pleb in this race, even though that's probably what I would expect to be given my lack of experience here. As we get tangled up on the curb, it sent us sideways into the path of another driver. He had nowhere to go but punt us off, or punt us in a straight line again. But we're still alive in this race, thankfully. And thankfully there's no damage in all the races that I've done so far on Gran Turismo Sport. If there was, I feel like I would have many race-ending incidents on lap 1. You can see I follow in the GTR to the runoff area of turn 1, which is quite unfortunate, but at this stage I'm still relying on everyone else around me to kind of guide me around the circuit. I don't really have any braking markers to really have as reference, and so yes, I am leaning on other people to kind of guide me in the right direction. These two really just having all-out war in this first sector, and the Neon GTR gets sent on a bit of a spin. The other one, who is still standing in front of us, 3.5 second time penalty, which will be served very swiftly. But our goal now is to just get in front of him without getting blown up ourselves as we head into this heavy braking hairpin. Now, I was being a bit of a track day hero at that particular corner, always thinking I could just dive bomb someone from 100 meters back, but it wasn't quite working out too well for me there, especially on the outside. The outside line is not going to work for you. That GTR gets a slowdown penalty. The guy on our left-hand side either is trying to send us a message there, or he was trying to make his pit stop, and we were in his way. That's not exactly my problem, is it? As we're running side by side into turn 1, who is going to be the last of the late breakers? It looks like it's going to be us, but at a cost of the actual position. So again, still finding my bearings around this racetrack. I'm kind of just relying on muscle memory at this point to get the braking zones right. But yeah, as the race goes on, that gets better and more refined. Like, to be fair, this is only my 7th or 8th lap on this circuit, but we are doing our best to remain competitive. A lot of people now have made their stops, one of which this guy in P5 who was just rejoined on a fresh set of mediums. Thank you very much for the hits. I really appreciate that. I don't even know where that came from. The guy was literally 200 meters back, and we are now potentially going to lose that position now to the fellow Brit. He probably recognizes that I am not a true citizen, recognizing the phony that is Tiametmarduk, and we just get absolutely pushed wide by the Frenchman. Like, we were already pretty much off the circuit anyway, and then we just got pushed even further wide. Like, are you okay, fella? You not have enough space there, do you? Like, what's going on there? That was really annoying, yes. But this was the point of the race where I was just getting absolutely mobbed by everyone on fresher tyres. I recognized that maybe a couple of people made their stops for new tyres, but I didn't realize that just about everyone did. And so you can just see I'm right in the thick of things here with my older hard compound tyres. It's not a good place to be. And again, I stick it out for another lap. I told you guys that this is going to take me an embarrassingly long amount of time to realize, to the detriment of my race here. But we do eventually respond and put on the medium tyres, but not before a very hard lesson is taught to us by many drivers, spun out by the Italian at turn 1. And then when I tried to get going here, like, the car just completely bogged down. I felt like maybe the drivetrain had died or something. But we're fine. We press on with this race. Maybe there just isn't any tyre tread left on the rear tyres to get me going again. Do we respond on this lap and make a pit stop? No, we don't. I really don't know what I was thinking at this point. I was just thinking that a no-stop strategy was just the way to go. But the thing is with Gran Turismo, as we choose to go to the inside, and that GTR breaks about 500 meters early. So just my luck today is just not there, it seems. But to be honest, you make your own luck by putting yourself at the back, not qualifying, not putting any practice in, by just continually making mistakes. Like, I am bringing a lot of this on myself. I do realize that, but we finally respond. The thing I was going to say is that on Gran Turismo, the pit stops are so quick. You can fly into the pit lane, not have to slow down for the pit lane speed, and then that cutscene, or like the whole pit stop phase, you're in and out in like less than 10 seconds. So it makes a pit stop so much more viable than what it would be if it was realistically carried out, like driving all the way down the pit lane, slowing down, and then not having an insta rejoin on the circuit. In F1 terms, you make a pit stop, that's a time loss of 20 seconds or so. definitely not the case here, and that's why I was so reluctant at first to make a pit stop. But this is all a learning experience for me. This is my first race on Gran Turismo where I've actually had to make a pit stop, and now we know for the future that pit stops are not as big of a time loss as what I initially thought. But now this is our first flying lap on the medium tyres, and I think this is the fastest lap of the race, or at least my fastest lap of the race. The current marker is held down by Wingnut Forever with a 1 minute 32.6. I'm going to do my best to see if I can get close. I have a good idea of where all the braking points are, which way I'm going now in terms of the corner that's coming up next. We do overshoot that hairpin again, but you know, we'll come back to this car and track combination in the future and try and perfect it a little bit better. I got to say, I really do enjoy driving this car at this circuit. I feel like it really lends itself well to having a nice feeling behind the wheel. Like the fast flowing corners in the first sector really feel nice in this car as we get inside the top 11. That GTR having a penalty, but we are in the slipstream range of the Frenchman up ahead, and we come across the line. It is a 32.8, so only 2/10 away from the absolute fastest person on circuit right now, and that's not a bad effort for me, given my lack of experience. So I'm really, really happy with that, actually. But yeah, like I said, this is a car and track combo I will come back to again in the future. With great interest, as we can see, the Frenchman in P10, now in P11, defending to the inside. We managed to get him around the outside of the hairpin, so we finally get the braking right there, and that was our race. A pretty hectic one in the end there, down from last up to the heights of P7, P5, as people were making their pit stops, back down to like P14, and here we are again in P10 as we cross the line. Make that P9. So maybe a few people had penalties. That Blazka 111 had a 20-second time penalty, which has been absolutely devastating for his race, much to my benefit. So it is P9 around Fuji International Speedway. I will try to remember that. That was a fun little race and a fun circuit. But guys, that has been this video for today. Hopefully you have enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to see plenty more racing game content. We will try and do Her Majesty very proud in the days, weeks, years to come, and hopefully sooner rather than later we will earn that coveted British passport or something like that, and who knows, maybe even get knighted if we win a Nations Cup race or something. Anyway, I'm waffling. I gotta go. See you in the next one. Bye bye.